Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club podcast, where every week me and Miss Boo go back and forth bringing a movie to the table. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but it's always fun at the Film Club. Miss Boo, how are you?
I'm doing good today, Dean. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I just got back from the 90s.
Did you know?
I was there for like 90 minutes. 90 like solid minutes of the 1990s. You know, to go on theme with the movie we watched this week.
Well, I think you're forgetting a bigger theme than just today's movie.
I think I might be, because this month we're going to camp.
We are. We're packing up our bags. We're going camping.
We are, because the whole month of June, that's right. I know what time it is. The whole month of June, we're going to be going off to camp. We're only going to be doing camp movies or movies related to camping and the great outdoors. And this week was my pick. Oh man, I picked this movie because it's a nostalgia trip for me. I haven't seen this movie in many years.
You picked this movie because it has Christopher Lloyd in it?
I kinda did, and it's Camp Nowhere, which in hindsight, I didn't realize this was a Disney movie.
Me either, and after watching the movie, I realized I've never seen this before.
Really?
Yes, I thought, like, okay, something's gonna, take me back to seeing this as a kid. I have never seen this movie before.
Really? I remember you, like, I mentioned this movie to you before, and you said, oh yeah, I remember that movie from a kid, I remember seeing this, blah, blah, blah.
Maybe the poster, but I don't think I've ever seen this before.
Okay, so this is actually kind of interesting, because it's a little rare for the Boo to kind of come in blind to some of these movies, because usually you do either a lot of research before you watch a movie, or you've already seen it so you don't really have to.
Yeah.
So you actually went in completely blind for this.
I thought, hey, I saw this as a kid, something's gonna catch my attention and take me back. Nope, and I did no research, so yeah, totally blind on this movie.
That's interesting. So, yeah, I guess I'll get started here. I'll give everybody the little plot rundown, the little...
Yeah, give us your elevator pitch for Camp Nowhere.
Well, okay, the 5-second summary is a group of middle school-aged kids are going to be sent off to camp for the summer, and they really don't want to go. So they come up with a scheme to basically fake the camp experience for their parents, and they're going to go off away and basically have their own, Paradise Island summer vacation.
Yeah.
And to do this, they enlist the help of Mr. Dennis Van Walker, played by the national treasure, one of the greatest actors of our time, Christopher Lloyd, who basically dons many hats as basically he plays every camp counselor to convince the parents, and then they go off and have kind of a banging summer.
Yeah.
Where, they learn things and, have a little, a fun old time. But yeah, also this movie is incredibly 90s.
It is so 90s. I mean, I felt like I went back to the 90s.
Yeah, the opening, okay. Because I remember this movie, because I saw it as a kid, and I don't know how many times. This is one of my favorite movies when I was, like, young, right? But I haven't seen it in 10 plus years, probably more. I think I probably stopped watching this movie after like, elementary school. I don't even think I made it that long, but I remember watching it when I was younger, and I've completely forgotten like 80% of this movie. I've just realized.
That's how I felt coming in. I thought maybe I just forgot about this. No, it's fresh.
It's fresh. All right, then I got a question for you, Miss Boo.
Sure.
What did you think this movie was gonna be?
I just thought, maybe Christopher Lloyd has a camp or is a camp counselor, and this group of kids just gets to have the best summer with Christopher Lloyd being Christopher Lloyd, and it's a banging summer. And I got in and I'm like, oh, this is totally different from what I anticipated, because I don't even think I watched the trailer going into this movie.
So you went in thinking this was just going to be a straight camping movie?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, this is not a straight camp movie.
It is not.
It's also really like... Okay, so this movie is rated like PG, right?
Yeah.
Do you think this is a PG movie?
No.
Right, not even close.
There were some things in there I was like, whoa. I'm like, This is Disney and a PG movie?
This
like,
is a Disney.
come on.
This is a Disney movie, and and one of the kids opens up his suitcase, and he's relieved that his collection of porno mags made it through the trip.
Yeah.
Because I totally forgotten like a bunch of the like more adult or risque humor in this, and I was like, wait, this is a Disney movie. There's porn in this? Like, granted, we don't see anything. There's no like tits and ass, but there's like porno mags. There's references to like sexuality,
and it's not even
like
a duffel bag. It is like a carrying case, a trunk of just porno magazines.
Yeah, and I understand this isn't like Disney proper. It's Hollywood Pictures or whatever, but it's a Disney movie.
Which, when the movie started, I was like, damn, we're really going back once we got the Hollywood Pictures logo. I was just like, whoa.
It's interesting because we actually reviewed the last Hollywood Pictures film on this podcast not a long time ago for Stay Alive, which the only slasher film ever released by Disney.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So was it Hollywood? Because Hollywood Pictures, I know, was supposed to be, it's a Disney property or whatever, but it's supposed to release things that it's not like Disney canon, right?
I think so. I mean,
or by Disney canon, I mean like it's not for like the kids. Like the Walt Disney Corporation is like everything's very open and like this is what a Disney movie is, and this is.
Granted, we found this on Disney Plus, and I was just kind of like, this is on Disney Plus? Like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the? Because I think we're building it up a little bit too much in terms of, like, this is so not a Disney movie, but, like, what about this caught you off guard going in? Granted, the whole movie caught you off guard because you've never seen it before, but...
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the entire thing. This twists and turns every second of the movie. I was like, oh, okay,
You were always anticipating the memory to kick in and, like, fill in.
I waited, and it never came.
Okay, so... I guess my question to you is, but you knew this was a Disney film going in, right? It was on Disney Plus. You had that much knowledge of it? Or you had the knowledge that this was a kid's film?
I had the knowledge that this was a kid's film, looking for it to see how I could stream it, and seeing that it was on Disney Plus. Had no idea that this is considered a Disney film, even though it's a Hollywood Pictures.
Yeah.
But I just assumed it would be kind of like in the lines of like Blank Check. What's the other one? The hockey movie.
Like Mighty Ducks?
Mighty Ducks. I thought it would be kind of like that kind of story.
Very much like this is a movie for, like, children.
Yeah, kind of like a coming-of-age story for children where you go to summer camp and, something happens and you grow up a little bit.
You felt this was going to be more in lines, like, tonally with something like something else we watched on the podcast, Luck of the Irish.
Yes.
Right? This feels like it has a way better production than Luck of the Irish did. Like, I mean that, like, it looks like it has, like, more money into it. Like, it looks like the sets are a lot more done, and it looks like the film quality and making of it looks a little bit, like, on a higher scale.
I mean, to be fair, when the movie starts, well, not when the movie starts, but when we actually get to the camp, I was waiting for Jason to show up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was like, it's gonna be like a slasher movie, right? The kids are here, like, oh yeah, Mom, Dad, we're going to this great camp, and it turns into a horror movie.
Could you imagine if this was just like if this turned into a slasher movie halfway through? What if it was like Christopher Lloyd snaps, like he's the actor that gets into all like the funky roles to convince the parents to let the kids go away, and then he just like has a mental breakdown, he becomes a serial killer?
No, I can't see Christopher Lloyd doing that.
Right, he's just too nice.
He is too nice.
Right, I've seen him as a villain in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and I still root for him. But
that and there's a lake. You expect Jason to pop up out of the water.
It's so weird. But yeah, this is such a weird movie tonally, right?
Yeah, it's a bit odd, There's some weird things going on. Granted, there's also some really clever things, the way that the kids were able to convince their parents.
Mm-hmm. There's actually moments of like real comedy in this, where it's like again, this has that sheen of nostalgia for me, but I thought there was some jokes in here that actually like just worked.
Yeah.
Also, basically anything with Christopher Lloyd, because there's no pretension there. He's just going for it.
And I mean, this movie also, really shows his talents. Mm-hmm. How he's able to jump from character to character. you know, just the things he gets into. I mean, even with the cop, when he's trying to, you know, convince him that he's got emphysema and...
The blue mug. No, the green one's mug. For company. The blue one's mine. No, the blue one's for company. The green one's mine.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's those little moments that, you know, really shows his natural talent. Because, I mean, he's such a funny guy. He's
a very, very good, like comic actor. Yeah. And in this, it's probably one of those things where, you know, I'm not going to talk down to, like, the child actors here, because the child actors actually work.
Yeah.
Like, they actually do have an amount of, like, charm, charisma. They're, like, engaging.
Yeah, Christopher Lloyd and Mud. I'm not sure who plays Mud in the movie.
Oh, I believe Mud is played by Jonathan Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, the two of them, they really play off each other really well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And it's one of those things where, you know, Christopher Lloyd is an actor who, even at this point, had been in the business for decades and decades.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, you know, we're seeing kind of an old hand working in this movie, and he's playing opposite to kids who are like 14, and the ages between like 13 and like 16, and that's the age range of all of his co-stars in this movie.
Yeah.
More or less. So
except for his romantic lead that he has in this movie, the nurse.
Yeah. And it's just interesting to see like an actual actor like kind of elevate the rest of this movie.
Oh yeah, because I mean, if you had it just, you know, where the kids are gonna entertain you, I don't think it could have held on its own. It needed Christopher Lloyd to kind of bring it up to that next level.
Yeah. So I guess let's like get into the movie proper. So Boo, since this is a movie you've never seen before and this is my pick, where do you want to start?
Let's start with the characters.
The characters. Our favorites. So, okay, so we have like 4 leads in this, right? We have Mud, we have Zach, we have... Oh, God.
We have Dennis. And we have the blonde girl. What was her name?
Oh, we have 2, because there's the 2 girls, right? I think there's... it's Trish and...
Nancy?
I think it might be Nancy or Gabby. We're gonna apologize, but it's really weird because Mud and Zach are like the main characters,
yeah,
and then the 2 like girls who are part of like their friend group like disappear for like 70% of the runtime.
Yeah,
right. They turn into like background characters. They show up for like the romantic love interest scenes, and then they disappear. Yeah, which is kind of telling for like when the target audience for this movie, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a guy movie.
It's for like boys.
Yeah,
it's for like young boys who have that, you know, like fantasy of like, oh, I'm gonna run off away from my parents and blah blah blah. And this show's like, yeah, running off from your parents isn't like a good thing because, you know, they're, you know, parents are people too, blah blah blah.
And it's also, you know, the struggle with, you know, Mud and Zach keeping their friendship even though they're kind of drifting into different friend groups, where Zach's kind of, you know,
he's the bully bad boy and Mud's the geek.
Yeah.
And also, like, I'm be real with you. Like, Zach, it's 1994. The leather jacket look for bullies kind of went out in like the 50s.
True, but a leather jacket never goes out of style.
You say that. But a leather jacket that's like 3 times too big for your frame might go out of style.
Well, that was also the style for the 90s.
God damn it, 1990. God damn it, 90s. You're ruining me.
Remember Boy Meets World, Harley Kiner? He had a really big jacket for, you know, his frame.
That was... Okay. That was also kind of weird watching this, is seeing some of the kids and how, like, they're dressed.
Yeah.
It's so weird seeing people dressed like that now, because now looking back, I'm like, man, the 90s was like, people looked horrible. Everything is like either too big, everything's either like the gaudiest colors you can think of, and this isn't like, you know, oh, this is like a kids movie, so it's like a bunch of adults are, you know, dressing these kids as to what they think hip is. These kids look like how I remember people dressing in like the 90s or early 2000s.
I remember people dressed like that in the 90s.
Yeah, it's like normal clothing but then I have the realization is, oh my god, I can't believe people wore that shirt or those like giant baggy cargo pants.
That hat.
That hat. If you don't know that hat, it's the neon one that has like the weird airbrushing going on. Mm-hmm. The 90s were a different time.
But you wanted Mud's dad's sweaters.
The Cosby sweaters?
Yeah, you wanted a pair of those.
Why wouldn't I want one of those sweaters? They look so comfy. And also, this is a thing that's probably just for me because, I'm a nerd, I'm a computer person, and they have the computer camp that they want to send Mud to.
Yeah.
Camp Chippewa. And then I'm like, okay. And then they're talking about, it's like, oh, you're going to go, to camp and you're going to learn DOS, the new operating system. And I'm like, oh my God, this is old enough to where DOS is new?
You were like, please, can I go back to the 90s so I can go to that camp?
No, God, no. Learning DOS is AIDS. So, yeah, basically, this movie is very much of its time. The actors do a good job. We'll get back to the question at hand. So, I think all the actors actually do really well. I don't think there's a bad performance in there. Like, do you think any of the actors are phoning it in, or any of the kids are just not really cut out for what's going on?
No, it was very believable. I mean, I really didn't get a performance that I felt like, man, they don't know what they're doing or they just don't care. It was more just interesting to see how the stories kind of wove in together. It kind of gave me a vibe like The Breakfast Club. Mm-hmm. Where, our four kid leads, they're all part of different groups, but once you see them after school, they come together, they hang out, at whoever's house.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's why it gave me kind of like Breakfast Club vibes, where it's, different people from different, groups at school. But,
and they've bonded and all this stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, they feel like they can't hang out together at school, like when we see Zach and Mud in the boys' bathroom where he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, flush your head down the toilet. And Mud's like, do we really have to do this? And he goes, yeah, basically.
I got a reputation to uphold.
Yeah, so, there's Mud, with his wet hair from the sink, and Zach, at the urinal, like, there you go, next time you won't walk down my hallway. And it's just like, totally Breakfast Club.
It's also one of those things where I'm like, I do not remember this from school.
What, like people getting swirlies?
Oh no! Well, okay. Obviously, I don't remember people getting swirlies. I lived in the real world.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't remember that ever happening either.
Yeah, I understand the concept of the swirly, but I also feel that you do realize that the kid's 90 pounds and he's being the kids are dunking his head in there, whatever. The kid's still gonna fight back. It's not easy to dunk somebody's head in a toilet against their will. It's not easy, but whatever. But
why does it seem like you have some experience with this?
I have never gotten into a swirly. I've never had my head dunked in a toilet, but I did wrestling in high school. So I understand the concept of if somebody doesn't want to do something, if they don't want their body to go in a direction, it's a lot more difficult to do that when they don't want to do it.
No, I was thinking, maybe did you do that to your little brother when you were younger?
Oh, I tried a bunch of times. But again, that's also how I know, even if they're 90 pounds, they're still going to fight back.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
But back to the point. Is, I don't remember, the friend group things where, granted, this is a very, Disney or kids movie thing where it's all these kids are from different walks of life, but they're all friends, come together, cultural friendship, class blah blah blah. I generally remembered kids that hung out together were he's oh, that was their friends and no one needed to hide friends, right? I don't remember that being a thing. How many friends did you have to be yo, don't talk to me at school, man? I don't want to be associated with you here. How many friends were you yo, I got a reputation to uphold?
No, I don't think I've ever done that. I mean, I've had friends from different groups. So, it's always been a thing. I know people, over here, over there, but I've always kind of had a main group in each school I've gone to, and that's it. It's never been dude, you're cool, but I can't talk to you. You're gonna kill my reputation.
Right, and that's such a weird thing in this movie because it's it's played straight. It's not played for comedy. It's and that's Zach's whole arc in the movie is like giving in to like, you know, he doesn't care what like people think about him, and he just wants, you know, he wants to keep his friends together, blah blah blah. Like he doesn't have to front to his other two like bully friends anymore. That's his like arc in the movie. And then you have Mud, who's like, oh, you know, I'm so uncool, blah blah blah. I just, you know,
I'm short. I haven't hit my growth spurt yet.
And all this other stuff. And, you know, he has his own arc in the movie. All the kids more or less have an arc in the movie, except for Trish, the blonde Broadway girl, who again, I'm like, you are only here to kiss Zach at the end. That is your whole point in this movie.
Well, not at the end, throughout
the movie. To basically like lead Zach along to like coming to like the side of good.
Maybe that's her arc. You know, she goes in with, you know, my parents or her mom wants her to do, you know, Broadway camp and become this Broadway star. And she's just kind of, you know, this really isn't for me.
I just want to be a teenager. I just want to get married to the kid who's going to grow up to be a mechanic and like drink. And I'm going to get pregnant at 17.
I mean, you know, don't downplay mechanics. Mechanics are very important.
I work with a lot of mechanics.
Exactly. That's why I'm like.
But like, come on, like you get what I mean.
But
right?
You know, he's, you know, the bad boy, but not really the bad boy. Because, you know, we get that scene towards the end of the movie where the little girl is, you know, homesick. And he's trying to cheer her up. You know, you want to help me with this carburetor? She's just like, no.
Now, I know I said the performances, the actors are good in this movie and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, they do an admirable performance. They think they work well together. I've now realized something. Zach is, like, the worst actor in this movie.
I didn't think he was that bad.
I don't know, he's not that bad. It's not like a thing where it's like, oh my god, I can tell he's reading cue cards, but it's a thing where he feels like he's going over the top on the performance, right? Because he does the thing where it's like, you know, oh, now I'm gonna go and make my own necklace, blah, 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 and he like points his thumb at himself, and he does, I don't know, it feels like a thing where it's like his direction was act big. And it's just, I don't know. It's just one of those, like, weird things of the performances. But, yeah. But, you know, thoughts on the performances are good.
So, performances are good. Where do you want to lead next?
Well, honestly, like, so, the comedy bits on this. I guess we'll just talk about, like, the story, like, the comedy. You know, how it's written. So, I think we already touched on the fact that there are really adult jokes in this that are kind of out of nowhere. You said that's so sad.
Yeah.
But so here's my question, because this is a thing that movies used to do and some still kind of do, where it's like, oh, you have a kids movie and it's made for kids, but they put like, you know, dirty joke or adult humors that's supposed to fly over the heads of the kids, so it gives something for the parents to laugh at.
Yeah.
So do you think that's what's going on here? Because it's kind of all over the movie, and it's a little blatant.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is, but maybe they kind of geared it towards, you know, teenagers going into high school, so it's like, you know, hey, let's throw in an extra bits, you know, for you guys that maybe do understand what we're trying to say.
Yeah, it feels weird because this is like a kids movie by design. Yeah. This is definitely like a film made for children.
Yeah.
You know, probably like in like that, you know, 13 and under crowd. But then I have this weird feeling where I'm like, this feels like the humor they're going for in here. Like basically everything Christopher Lloyd says is designed for like high school to college age people. Right?
Yeah.
It also has this whole thing where it's like Christopher Lloyd's character, Dennis Van Walker, is like a burned out hippie drama teacher dude, and he's going through the thing where he's like, ah, man, you know, I knew I used to be at this camp, when they were talking about, oh, the camp used to be a commune, and they used to have hippie freakouts here, and one of the kids is like, wait, you used to do that here? He's like, no, not here. And he just kind of steps over where the desk is. Where the desk is, and he's like, yeah, I did it here. And I'm like, that's a joke about how he plowed somebody on a desk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like very blatant. That's what he's talking about.
Oh yeah, it's not like, you know, they're hinting at it. It's just like, you know,
he even winks at the fucking camera.
Well, I mean, he also has his hands out, like, you know, he's measuring like someone's waist. And moving his hands over to, say, okay, I moved her over here onto the desk.
Yeah. Or the other thing where we already mentioned it, they have the like the Playboy suitcase. They have another one where their friend Walter is trying his damnedest to get Betty to go skinny dipping, the redhead.
Yeah.
Which, don't get me wrong, I understand, and it pays off in a really good joke at the end of the movie.
It did.
But I'm also like, that is such a weird like thing for this character to be about, because that's all his character is.
Yeah.
He's basically just this like horny 13-year-old who wants to see a girl naked
and will not leave her alone.
And it's like, I can't imagine, like, okay, would you let like a 7-year-old watch this movie? Do you think that might be like this movie's humor, or like how this movie is like built up is like, yeah, this is a little bit too, I guess not risque. There's no tits and swearing in this, but there's stuff that's going on that's a little bit too like adult for like little kids.
Yeah, it's a little advanced. Because, I mean, apart from like feeling like The Breakfast Club, it also felt like Lord of the Flies. So that's why I was kind of like, this has to be like maybe a 13-year-old's kind of movie where, oh, cool, we have the freedom. Well, the freedom really isn't that sweet because we can only do so much.
Okay, that also brings up another point in the story where the kids are like rained out, right? Like they've been having like literally the best summer they could imagine.
Yeah.
They're like playing every night. They get to eat as much junk food as they want. They're having literally the epitome of like what a 13-year-old would think would be the greatest summer ever. And then it starts like raining. And then they're like, "Oh man, it's so boring. Oh man, we should just like go home. At least we have cable at home." And what's going through my head is like, I then have the sudden realization that the internet doesn't exist.
Nope.
In this world, or in actually just it doesn't exist at that time. Period. It's just not a thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's, you guys can't. No one bought an air hockey table, like a foosball table. No one's like bought an NES or a Super Nintendo. Actually, they did buy a Super Nintendo. That's like a point in the movie.
And I mean, they bought that huge big screen TV, so it's like, really, you can't play video games or watch cartoons.
Yeah. And it's like really weird that there's just like these kids are now like, they have a serious consideration of just like going home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys would all of you would be in so much shit. Right? Because like the whole crux of the movie is that instead of the parents sending their kids to an actual camp, they're just sending them to Camp Nowhere.
Yeah.
And basically Christopher Lloyd is just like taking the money and giving it to Mud.
Yeah.
And he gets a cut of it for helping convince him.
Yeah. So,
and all these kids, like, Mud opens his wallet at one point and there's got to be like a couple grand in there. Like, I'm looking at
it's more than that, because Mud says that camp is $3,000.
Oh, that's right. It's like $3,000, and there's how many kids? Like 30 kids?
Probably, because it was just going to be like the core group in the beginning, and then people kept telling other people. So there has to be at least 20 or 30 kids there.
So at minimum, we're looking at like 90 grand.
Yeah.
We're looking. So Mud is literally walking around
with $100K.
With $100K in his sock or in his pocket, right?
No, I think it was a wallet.
Oh yeah, he's walking around with $100K in his wallet. And he's being like, guys, this has to last you through the whole summer, blah, blah, blah. The kids take their money and they spend it on a bunch of frivolous bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mud, you had $100,000 in your back pocket. And you didn't have any concern about losing it, or maybe one of the kids just saying, fuck it, and taking all of it. And also, like, I get it, they bought the camp, or they rented the camp out for the summer. But I'm like, $100,000? You guys could have just, like,
gone on vacation.
Gone on actual vacation. Granted, like, $100,000, he'd have to pay for vacation for 30 kids and then keep it under wraps.
But it's also the 90s, too, so...
The 90s. The decade of before the internet, when you can kind of get away with whatever.
That, and I think things might have been a little bit cheaper than they are now, so...
Well, yeah. I'm trying to remember the point I was going on. It's just like a weird thing in the movie once I like think about it is Mud's rolling in dough.
Yeah.
These kids are spending on a bunch of like frivolous bullshit, and then it's never a point where the kids run out of money.
No.
And Mud even has cash like left over to pay off Ann Walker's like debt he owes to Emmett Walsh, the collection agent,
which only ends up being like $2,800.
It's like, it's like $3,000,
and it's just like, really, that much? I'm thinking like, oh, it's gotta be like $30,000, something
where it's like, oh yeah, there's no way Dennis has that like lying around,
and no wonder he's running away from this man and trying to hide, and
it's like $3,000.
It's like, really, that's it?
Yeah, granted, now I remember. Okay, I remember the point I was getting on. I went around it. So Mud has like $100,000, right?
Yeah.
And all these parents like basically paid like out of pocket to send their kids to camp. If they went back, the first thing the parents are gonna say are, "Where's the fuck's my money?" Those kids are all screwed.
Yeah.
And I think one of the girls says it like, "Oh, we're not gonna get in trouble. It was your guys' idea."
Yeah.
I'm like, bitch, you got $3,000? You still have your parents' money?
Hey, I mean, if these parents can afford to send their kids away every summer at $3,000, I think they got the money.
That's another thing. So I never went to camp. Camp was never like my thing. Like, I've never gone to a summer camp ever. I never even went to like a day camp. Like my experience growing up.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to camp?
Yeah, in elementary school I went to day camp because my grandparents couldn't always watch me over the summer and my parents both worked, so that was just like the easiest way to make sure that I was safe and doing something.
Yeah.
I went to sleepaway camp one time, but that was like science camp in the 5th grade.
Yeah, so, I didn't even go to that.
So, I mean, I can't imagine that was, more than $100 maybe, because I was gone for like a week.
Mm.
But nothing like this, and I mean, I don't think my parents could have afforded to send me away for $3,000.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is all these kids are in the bracket of really well off.
Yeah.
Right? Like Zach makes a note that he goes to military camp every summer. And Mud goes to computer camp.
Yeah. Computer camp, yeah.
Every summer, and Broadway camp every summer, and camp.
Yeah, weight loss camp.
And it's like, wait a minute. So you guys have been going to these camps basically for like years.
Mm-hmm.
And you think, and it was easier in your mind to create a fake camp so you guys could just disappear from your parents for a summer than to just tell your parents, I'm not going.
Yeah. Because, I mean, in a lot of these movies, the kids have no choice.
Yeah.
They're taken to these camps and, they're miserable and they gotta, defeat the whatever enemy there is at this camp.
And then there's like the one cool camp counselor that like rallies the kids and make them like, oh no, like it's not as bad as you all think.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that's the stereotypical camp movie, and this movie just goes left turn.
Yeah, because, I mean, believe me, when he was saying, I don't pay $3,000, a year for you to go to camp and do this, and I'm just like, $3,000 for a camp? It's like, spend $3,000, buy a whole bunch of, camping equipment and take your family camping a couple times a year.
Well, I don't think that's the point. I think the point is for them to just, for the parents at least,
to get a break.
And also to just send the kids away, right?
But it's just like, $3,000?
Right. And I know we say that, and some people are like, $3,000? I mean, it's not that bad when you grand scheme thing, but I'm over here like, I'm really poor. So like, $3,000's a lot of money. But I mean, I guess it makes an amount of sense, but it's just so weird that that's the crux of the movie, right? And there's also like, I think the concept of the film is actually kind of really interesting. What if the inmates ran the asylum?
Yeah, Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies is like, how like society like breaks down when the kids like come together. And it's been a long time since I've read Lord of the Flies.
Since freshman year.
No, I think I read it after that, but it's been a hot minute. But the whole concept of Lord of the Flies, from my memory, is that these kids come together and they try to create like this like society for them to run, and then it just turns out that society is just inherently like flawed, right? Yeah. And that's like the whole thing. When the kids are left to run it, like the society just breaks down.
Yeah, because instead of making the money stretch, and, you know, we got to focus on food. You know, right away, we have the delivery trucks coming in with toys and electronics.
Chainsaws.
Yeah, chainsaws. We have that one kid that's always on the roof playing his guitar.
Yeah. Which
they're, you know, eating chocolate and s'mores all the time,
mm-hmm.
and then after a while they're like, you know, I'm kind of tired of eating this. I want to eat like a regular meal.
I want to eat like real food.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's like the thing. The movie in the sense where it's like I can see how you can get the idea that this is going to be a Lord of the Flies like kind of rip, but it's not really. Like Mud's the only one that gets hurt, and it's not even like that bad of an injury. It's a second-degree burn.
Yeah.
By the way, I've had many second-degree burns. I've had them all the time. I work around fire.
That, and he also loves fireworks.
I love him to death. 4th of July is my favorite holiday. And a second-degree burn, you put like some aloe vera on it, you wrap it, and you just like ice it or whatever. You don't have to go to a doctor, right? Okay, I don't go to the doctor because I'm terrified of doctors, but whatever. And it's just weird, right? Because that's like the whole thing where, oh, these kids, they're left unsupervised, they're gonna get hurt, you know, they're gonna like, oh, you're waiting for the movie, or you're waiting for the part of the movie where it just shows that this utopia can't exist, right? Like it just breaks down. There's just a flaw in it, but it never happens. There's never a flaw in how these kids are running it.
No, I mean the only flaw we get is at the very end.
Which that flaw at the end is only that, oh, we can't keep the shtick up anymore because the parents are coming, and they almost succeed.
They were close.
Literally, if it wasn't for
Mud's dad.
Well, not even Mud's dad. It's the debt collector, Emmett Walsh. If it weren't for him, they would have gotten off scot-free, completely scot-free.
But I mean, Mud's dad also helped by, oh, well, let me walk you in and show you. He could have just, you know, pointed, oh, hey, you know, he's in that building, and then just got in the car and left.
Yeah. Which, now I've suddenly realized why the debt collector character exists at all. I feel like the writers wrote this movie and had it laid out and got to the end, and they were like, wait, the parents have to find out what the kids did, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah? How are they going to do that? Oh, crap, I don't know. They played everything right. We'll just make a character up that's chasing Van Walker, and then we'll figure it out. It feels like the debt collector thing was added on like posthumously after the script was finished.
It could have.
It's weird. Also, the sheriff is great because I get 2 Back to the Future alums in this film. It really sucks I can never remember Biff's name.
I mean, I just call him Biff Tannen all the time.
He is actually just Biff Tannen in my heart and in my soul. But yeah, and it's just an interesting thing. So the script and the story, it works. The comedy's there, but it's like this feels like a movie you would watch as like somebody in late high school or like college and be like, man, this is kind of a cool kids movie, man. But I now realize I probably shouldn't have been watching this at like 7 years old. And
I saw it much later than 7 years old, and I'm just like, this is a kids movie?
Right? This does not feel like a kids movie. I guess that's the whole crux of this conversation is, well, we watched this really cool kids movie that's not really a kids movie.
Yeah.
This is actually, I think people would enjoy this more as like adults and watching it and being like, you know, this is actually just like a good comedy that just has child actors in it. Like, it's just an interesting comedy that follows kids around. But I don't know how well that would actually play now that I think about it. Because I'm not going to lie, the Pokemon episode, some nostalgia, you know, wet washes all over this movie for me. So I'm a lot more forgiving.
Well, of course you are, because it's your pick.
Yeah, but I guess that's why we have 2 of us on here, because you never seen this before, and you went in blind, so I guess this kind of leads us to the end part. What did you actually think of the movie? Now, don't sugarcoat it. You know, you can, if you say it's trash, you can tell me it's trash. I've told many of your picks were trash.
You tell me, you know, even when it's not my pick, you know, stuff that I like is trash. So
it's my thing.
Yeah. So it was all right.
It was all right.
It was all right. You know, compared to some other camp movies that I've seen, This one was just all right on the list. I think, the saving grace of this movie was Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, honestly, if this was anyone else in that role, I probably would not have remembered this movie as fondly, and I probably wouldn't even have liked this movie on this rewatch.
Yeah, so for me, it was an all right movie. If you guys want to watch it, it's on Disney Plus. Give it a watch.
Yeah.
Come to your own conclusions and see, hey, maybe you really enjoy it or not so much.
So you're giving this movie like a C plus?
Yeah, I'd give it a C.
See, that's the thing. I think on like the bone, like this movie structurally and how it like plays, it's a C movie.
Yeah.
But I think because Christopher Lloyd is just so good and so into this movie, it's like a B. It's like a B movie for me. It's like a B plus movie.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed like basically any scene with Christopher Lloyd in it is solid gold. The scenes I disliked the most was the ones where it was only the kids.
Yeah.
It's just not like whatever.
And because it's kid problems too.
Yeah. And I think that's probably the biggest downfall of this movie is the main theme and crux of the movie is just so like, kid, just fucking get over it, man.
Or just wait a little bit. I'm not tall and people don't hear me. It's like you're gonna hit your growth spurt, and your voice will change eventually.
I'm like, you're like just 13. Give it like 2 years, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Or the whole thing where he's like, I don't want to turn into my parents. Oh, my parents are so lame. I don't want to be like them.
Yeah.
And then like the end of the movie is like, no, my parents are all right. Yeah, of course they're all right. They spend $3,000 on you every summer to like let you to go where granted they think you'll have fun.
Or when he's scolding the other kids and he goes, oh my god, I'm turning into my parents. And it's like, we all have that realization. We all turn into our parents.
Yeah, speak for yourself. I haven't picked up smoking yet. I am going fine.
And how often do you play, computer games?
Quiet, you.
Yeah,
all the
that's
time.
what I thought.
All the time. Me and my dad bonded over Quake 3. But besides the point. So yeah, I think overall to give it the final stamp is this is a really solid like C plus B minus movie that I think you'll get a lot of mileage out of if you're just kind of in the mood for a more adult humored kids film.
Yeah.
It's not raunchy, it's not like gross. It's just like it's pretty good humor if you're in like a older age bracket of like quote unquote children film watching audiences.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that was Camp Nowhere.
That was.
And I think out of this conversation, we landed in nowhere.
We did.
Yes.
We circled around.
So, Miss Boo, what are we going to be watching next week on our Camp Movie Month?
Well, this week was your pick, so of course we got a Christopher Lloyd movie because you are a Christopher Lloyd fan through and through since you were a child.
Oh, I love Back to the Future.
So, going from Dean's childhood to mine, I, came from a very spooky childhood, spooky kid.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to be watching The Addams Family Values, where Pugsley and Wednesday go to camp.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, that is actually a really large part of that movie,
It
right?
is.
That's basically like most of the second act is there at camp.
Yeah, and I know, when I first told you about my idea, you're like, what? That's only a small fragment. It's like, no, that's pretty much a big part of the story.
Yeah, because it's like, it's really weird. When I think about the Addams Family movie, I think I remember, because Addams Family Values is the second one, right?
Yeah.
I remember the first movie like really well, and the second one I have negative memory of that movie. I've forgotten so much of that movie. I've started forgetting things about the second movie or the first movie.
The first movie.
See, I even forgot which movie we're talking about.
No, these movies have been a big part of my childhood and into adulthood, so it's a really good movie, and we're going to be talking about a spooky camp experience next week.
And I can't wait to get there. But for people who want to keep up with us and listen to that episode, where can they go?
Well, we are on YouTube on a channel called In the Frame.
Yes, where we post some of our old episodes, some of our new episodes. We're trying to basically catch everything up because we just got onto the platform. But to tide you over, you can also listen to my other podcast, the Double Feature Podcast, where me and my boy David bring two movies together. We talk about them, compare and contrast them, talk about the themes, the artistry of these films. It's a lot more pretentious than this, but still it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to our podcast or the Double Feature podcast, you can find us on sites like Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much any platform where podcasts are played.
Yeah.
And if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the Film Club Podcast, where we usually post daily, we do stories daily, and, we go to events and different things are on there.
And Boo, I think that's about it.
Yeah, so we'll see you next week at the Film Club.
Peace.